This is the first part of a two-part series where I explore the question of whether climate change actually exists and provide you with a comprehensive understanding of this highly debated issue. Howdy, I'm just some random nude dude sitting in my closet talking to myself. It's also where I celebrate the power of free thinking and encourage bold ideas. As a society, we're often afraid to challenge the norms and think outside the box. But here, I embrace the unconventional. So sit back, relax, and join me on this journey of exploration where we embrace our inner nude dude and push boundaries to discover new perspectives. Before we start, pause the video and go grab a beer because this is going to be a while. I always use chapters in my video, so if you don't want to watch it all at once or want to jump around, click the chapter markers at the bottom. This discussion is a long one and I've split it into two videos. In this video, we'll embark on a journey to unravel the complexities of climate change. I'll delve into the scientific consensus, observational evidence, and the role of human activities in driving greenhouse gas emissions. Through compelling data and expert insights, I aim to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of the realities of climate change. Get ready to challenge your misconceptions, explore its profound impacts on various aspects of our world, and gain a deeper appreciation into the urgency for action. Let's begin our quest to understand one of the most critical challenges of our time. Climate change refers to the long-term shifts in global weather patterns and temperatures, primarily driven by human activities that release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The scientific consensus overwhelmingly supports the reality of climate change and attributes it to human-induced greenhouse gas emissions. In this video, I'll delve into the evidence supporting climate change, address common misconceptions, discuss the urgency of taking action, and explore strategies for mitigating its impacts. My goal is to present you with accurate information and empower you to make informed decisions, and contribute to collective efforts in addressing climate change. By understanding the science behind climate change and exploring the need for immediate action, we can work towards creating a sustainable and resilient future for our planet. So join me on this informative journey where we separate fact from fiction and delve into the critical issue of climate change. Climate change is a complex phenomenon that encompasses various interconnected factors. It refers to long-term alterations in weather patterns and average temperatures on Earth. The Earth's climate has naturally fluctuated throughout its history due to factors such as volcanic eruptions, solar radiation, and orbital variations. However, the concern today is the significant impact of human activities on the climate system. Scientific research conducted by numerous reputable organizations and experts has provided overwhelming evidence supporting the existence of climate change. One key aspect of this evidence is the measurement of global average surface temperatures. Data collected from weather stations, satellites, and other sources consistently show an increase in global temperatures over the past century. Moreover, the impacts of climate change are not limited to rising temperatures alone. Rising sea levels, melting glaciers and ice caps, shifting rainfall patterns, and more frequent and intense extreme weather events, such as hurricanes and heat waves, all indicate the presence of climate change. To understand the causes of climate change, scientists examine the Earth's energy balance. This balance is influenced by various factors, including greenhouse gases, or GHGs, in the atmosphere. GHGs, such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere, acting like a blanket that helps regulate the planet's temperature. While natural processes release some GHGs, human activities have significantly increased their concentrations. The burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, industrial processes, and agriculture all contribute to the release of GHGs into the atmosphere. These emissions disrupt the natural balance, leading to an enhanced greenhouse effect and subsequent global warming. Scientific consensus, based on extensive research and analysis, confirms that human activities are the primary driver of climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, comprising thousands of scientists from around the world, regularly assesses and synthesizes the scientific literature to provide policymakers with the most up-to-date information on climate change. The scientific community's consensus on climate change is crucial because it ensures that decisions and policies are based on a solid understanding of the problem. It also provides a foundation for developing effective mitigation strategies and adaptation methods to minimize the adverse impacts of climate change on societies and ecosystems. This introduction to climate change establishes that it is a real and multifaceted phenomenon. The scientific consensus overwhelmingly supports the existence of climate change and its attribution primarily to human activities. The scientific consensus regarding climate change is based on a vast body of research conducted by experts from various disciplines, including climatology, atmospheric science, geology, and ecology. This consensus has been endorsed by numerous reputable scientific organizations, including NASA, NOAA, and the World Meteorological Organization. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, established by the United Nations, plays a crucial role in assessing and summarizing the state of climate science. The IPCC periodically releases comprehensive reports that undergo rigorous review and scrutiny by scientists, ensuring the credibility and accuracy of the information presented. These reports present a synthesis of scientific literature, incorporating observations, models, and analysis from thousands of studies conducted around the world. They provide policymakers and the public with a comprehensive understanding of the current state of climate change, its causes, impacts, and potential mitigation strategies. One of the key aspects of the scientific consensus is the attribution of climate change to human activities. The IPCC's Fifth Assessment Report stated with high confidence that the human influence on climate change is clear, and recent anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases are the highest in history. This conclusion is further supported by subsequent reports and ongoing research. Climate models, which simulate the complex interactions of the Earth's atmosphere, oceans, ice, and land surface, have played a crucial role in understanding and predicting climate change. These models incorporate various factors, such as solar radiation, greenhouse gas concentrations, aerosols, and natural climate variability, to simulate past, present, and future climate conditions. Model simulations have been validated against historical climate data and have demonstrated their ability to reproduce observed temperature trends and other climate variables. The consistency between model predictions and real-world observations provides further confidence in the scientific understanding of climate change. The scientific consensus on climate change does not imply absolute certainty about every detail. Scientists continue to refine their understanding, address uncertainties, and explore the intricacies of the climate system. However, the overall consensus is robust and supported by converging evidence from multiple lines of inquiry. It's important to note that the scientific consensus is not driven by a desire for political or ideological outcomes. Instead, it's the result of a rigorous application of scientific methods, peer review, and the collective expertise of the scientific community. The scientific consensus overwhelmingly supports the reality of climate change and its attribution primarily to human activities. The extensive research conducted by reputable organizations and the endorsement of scientific bodies provides a solid foundation for understanding and addressing the challenges posed by climate change. Examining the observational evidence is crucial for understanding and validating the existence of climate change. Scientists gather data from various sources and analyze long-term trends to discern patterns and detect changes that go beyond natural variability. Several key pieces of observational evidence contribute to our understanding of climate change. Historical temperature records collected from weather stations and satellites and other sources indicate a clear upward trend in global average surface temperatures. The past century has witnessed a significant increase in the warmest years on record, occurring in recent decades. This warming trend aligns with the predictions made by climate models. The melting of glaciers, or glaciers for those of you in France, ice caps and the polar ice sheets is another visible indicator of climate change. These changes have led to rising sea levels, threatening coastal communities and ecosystems. Ask the people of Tuvalu. Satellite measurements and on-site observations confirm the accelerating loss of ice mass in polar regions, contributing to sea level rise. Climate change has been linked to an increased risk in the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, such as heat waves, droughts, heavy rainfall, and hurricanes. Observational data show a rise in the occurrence of these events, causing significant socioeconomic impacts. While individual events cannot be attributed solely to climate change, the overall trend suggests a changing climate system. Increased carbon dioxide emissions not only contribute to global warming, but also lead to ocean acidification. As the oceans absorb excess CO2 from the atmosphere, they become more acidic, posing threats to marine ecosystems and organisms reliant on calcium carbonate for their shells and structures. Measurements from research cruises, buoys, and autonomous sensors provide evidence of this acidification trend. Observations of shifts in plant and animal life cycles, such as earlier flowering, altered migration patterns, and changes in breeding and hibernation timings, offer additional evidence of climate change. These phenological changes are often driven by shifts in temperature and seasonal patterns, indicating the influence of a changing climate on ecosystems. By analyzing and synthesizing these and other observational data, scientists can better understand the complex interactions within the climate system and the impacts of human activities. The observed changes align with the expectations and predictions derived from climate models, further reinforcing the evidence of the existence of climate change. It's worth noting that individual data points or short-term variations cannot be used to dismiss the broader trends or to discredit the overwhelming body of evidence supporting climate change. Robust analysis of the long-term data sets and the integration of various observational sources allow scientists to distinguish natural variability from the signals of climate change. Weather is not climate. Multiple lines of observational evidence, including rising temperatures, melting ice, extreme weather events, ocean acidification, and phenological changes, consistently support the reality of climate change. These observations provide tangible proof of the ongoing shifts in our climate system, indicating the urgent need to address this global challenge. The primary driver of climate change is the increase in greenhouse gas emissions resulting from human activities. The combustion of fossil fuels, deforestation, industrial processes, and agricultural practices have significantly contributed to the release of GHGs into the atmosphere. This segment explores the link between human activities and the accumulation of GHGs, leading to the greenhouse effect and global warming. Fossil fuel combustion is a significant contributor to climate change and its release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, primarily carbon dioxide and methane. These gases trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere, leading to global warming and a range of adverse environmental impacts. Understanding the role of fossil fuel combustion in climate change is crucial for identifying mitigation strategies and transitioning to cleaner and more sustainable energy sources. The burning of fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, and natural gas, releases large quantities of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. CO2 is the primary greenhouse gas responsible for the majority of human-induced global warming. The combustion of fossil fuels for electricity generation, transportation, industrial processes, and residential heating contributes to the steady increase in the atmospheric CO2 concentrations. In addition to carbon dioxide, fossil fuel extraction and processing activities also release methane, another potent greenhouse gas. Methane has a much higher warming potential compared to CO2, although its atmospheric concentration is lower. Methane is released during the production and distribution of coal, oil, and natural gas. Leakage from natural gas pipelines, flaring of natural gas, and methane emissions from coal mining all contribute to the overall methane emissions from fossil fuel combustion. Fossil fuel combustion not only contributes to climate change, but also results in harmful air pollution. The combustion process releases pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, and volatile organic compounds into the atmosphere. These pollutants have detrimental impacts on air quality and human health, leading to respiratory problems, cardiovascular diseases, and other health issues. The extraction, processing, and combustion of fossil fuels have severe environmental consequences. Mining for coal and oil extraction often involves habitat destruction, deforestation, and the release of toxic substances into ecosystems. The burning of fossil fuels also contributes to acid rain, which harms vegetation and aquatic life. Moreover, offshore oil drilling and transportation of fossil fuels pose risks to marine ecosystems, as witnessed in oil spills and accidents. Recognizing the negative impacts for fossil fuel combustion, there is a growing global movement to transition to renewable and sustainable energy sources. Renewable energy, such as solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal power, offers clean and abundant alternatives to fossil fuels. By investing in renewable energy infrastructure and adopting energy-efficient technologies, societies can significantly reduce their reliance on fossil fuels and lower greenhouse gas emissions. Addressing the challenges posed by fossil fuel combustion requires comprehensive policies and regulations. Governments play a crucial role in incentivizing the transition to cleaner energy sources through the implementation of renewable energy targets, carbon pricing mechanisms, and subsidies for renewable energy technologies. International agreements, such as the Paris Agreement, aim to limit global warming by promoting the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, including those from fossil fuel combustion. Advancements in technology are driving the development of cleaner and more efficient energy solutions. Investments in research and development are fostering the growth of renewable energy technologies, energy storage systems, and carbon capture and storage technologies. These innovations hold the potential to further accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels and to promote a sustainable energy future. Recognizing the detrimental effects of fossil fuel combustion on climate change, air quality, and environmental sustainability is vital for implementing effective mitigation strategies. Transitioning to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, and embracing innovative technologies are key steps towards reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and creating a more sustainable future. Deforestation is a critical issue linked to climate change and environmental degradation. It refers to the permanent conversion or clearance of forests for various purposes, including agriculture, logging, urbanization, and infrastructure development. Deforestation contributes significantly to GHGs, disrupts ecosystems, and threatens biodiversity. Understanding the cause and consequences of deforestation is crucial for implementing effective measures to mitigate its impacts and promote sustainable land use practices. Forests play a vital role in mitigating climate change by acting as carbon sinks. They absorb CO2 from the atmosphere through the process of photosynthesis and store it in their biomass. Deforestation disrupts this balance, releasing large amounts of stored carbon back into the atmosphere. The clearing and burning of forests results in substantial GHG emissions, particularly CO2. The loss of forests not only diminishes their ability to absorb CO2, but also contributes to increased emissions, exacerbating global warming. Forests are home to a vast array of plant and animal species, and deforestation poses a significant threat to biodiversity. When forests are cleared, many species lose their habitats and are forced to migrate or face extinction. The destruction of forests disrupts delicate ecosystems, leading to imbalances in species populations and the loss of genetic diversity. This loss of biodiversity has far-reaching consequences for ecosystem stability, food webs, and overall ecological health. Trees and vegetation in forests play a crucial role in preventing soil erosion and maintaining soil fertility. Their roots help bind the soil, preventing erosion caused by wind and water. Deforestation exposes the soil to erosion, especially in areas with steep slopes. The loss of tree cover also reduces the ability of forests to retain water, leading to increased runoff and the loss of nutrients from the soil. Soil degradation resulting from deforestation has negative implications for agriculture, water quality, and overall ecosystem health. Deforestation often affects indigenous communities who rely on forests for their livelihoods and cultural practices. Indigenous peoples have deep connections with the land and forests, and their traditional knowledge and sustainable practices contribute to forest conservation. Deforestation disrupts these communities' way of life, leading to loss of cultural heritage and undermining their rights and well-being. Recognizing and respecting the rights of indigenous communities is essential for sustainable forest management and conservation efforts. To address deforestation, sustainable forest management practices are crucial. This includes implementing measures to reduce illegal logging, promoting responsible logging practices, and supporting reforestation and afforestation initiatives. Sustainable forest management involves striking a balance between meeting societal needs for resources and conserving forest ecosystems. It also includes engaging local communities, indigenous peoples, and other stakeholders in decision-making processes to ensure the sustainable use of forest resources. It's essential to recognize the role of consumer demand in driving deforestation. Many products, such as palm oil, soy, beef, and timber, are associated with deforestation. By making conscious choices and supporting companies that adopt sustainable and deforestation-free practices, consumers can contribute to the reduction of deforestation globally. Promoting transparency in supply chains and certifying sustainable products can help consumers make informed choices and incentivize sustainable land use practices. Addressing deforestation requires coordinated effort at various levels. Governments, international organizations, and stakeholders need to work together to develop and enforce policies that promote sustainable land use practices, protect forests, and support reforestation efforts. International cooperation, such as initiatives like REDD+, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, play a vital role in supporting countries' efforts to combat deforestation and promote sustainable forest management. By understanding the causes and impacts of deforestation and taking collective action, we can work towards conserving our forests, mitigating climate change, and fostering a more sustainable future for generations to come. Industrial processes contribute significantly to greenhouse gases and other environmental impacts. These processes encompass a wide range of activities, including manufacturing, chemical production, mining, and construction. Understanding and addressing the environmental impacts of industrial processes are crucial steps towards achieving sustainability and mitigating climate change. Industrial processes are responsible for a substantial portion of global greenhouse gas emissions, particularly carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. These emissions result from various activities, such as burning fossil fuels, chemical reactions during production, and the release of byproducts. The industrial sector's contribution to greenhouse gas emissions highlights the need for implementing cleaner and more efficient technologies, transitioning to renewable energy sources, and improving energy efficiency in industrial processes. Industrial processes can release pollutants into the air and water, leading to environmental degradation and adverse effects on human health. Combustion processes, chemical manufacturing, and waste disposal from industrial activities can emit harmful substances such as sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides, particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, heavy metals, and various toxic chemicals. These pollutants contribute to air pollution, smog formation, and the deterioration of air quality. They can also contaminate water sources, harming aquatic ecosystems and compromising access to clean water for communities. Industrial processes generate significant amounts of waste, including solid waste, hazardous materials, and wastewater. Inadequate waste management practices can lead to environmental pollution, soil degradation, and water contamination. Reducing waste generation through improved production practices, recycling and reusing materials, and implementing effective waste treatment and disposal methods are essential steps towards minimizing the environmental impact of industrial processes. Industrial processes often involve the extraction and consumption of natural resources, including minerals, fossil fuels, and water. Unsustainable resource extraction can lead to habitat destruction, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem degradation. Additionally, excessive water consumption by industries can strain local water supplies and impact aquatic ecosystems. Promoting resource-efficient practices, circular economy principles, and sustainable resource management can help minimize the negative environmental impacts associated with industrial processes. Advancements in technology play a crucial role in mitigating the environmental impact of industrial processes. Developing and implementing cleaner production technologies, such as renewable energy systems, energy-efficient equipment, and low-emission processes, can significantly reduce GHG emissions and pollution. Embracing sustainable manufacturing processes, such as eco-design and green chemistry, can also contribute to resource efficiency and waste reduction in industrial processes. Establishing and enforcing regulations and standards for industrial processes are vital in driving sustainable practices. Governments and regulatory bodies can set emission limits, pollution control requirements, and waste management guidelines to ensure industries operate in an environmentally responsible manner. International agreements and initiatives, such as the Paris Agreement or Sustainable Development Goals, also provides a framework for promoting sustainable industrial practices and global cooperation. By addressing the environmental impacts of industrial processes through technological innovations, resource efficiency, waste management, and regulatory methods, we can transition towards a more sustainable industrial sector that provides environmental conservation, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and fosters a greener and healthier planet. Agriculture and livestock production are essential for providing food, fiber, and livelihoods for billions of people worldwide. However, these activities also have significant environmental impacts that contribute to climate change and ecosystem degradation. Addressing the sustainability challenges in agriculture and livestock is crucial for achieving climate goals and ensuring food security. Agriculture and livestock production contribute to greenhouse gas emissions through various processes. The cultivation of rice, the use of synthetic fertilizers, and the management of livestock manure release methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Additionally, agricultural practices such as tilling and burning crop residues can release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Livestock production, particularly cattle, is a significant source of methane emissions. Implementing climate-smart agricultural practices, such as precision farming, nutrient management, and methane capture from livestock, can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the agricultural sector. The expansion of agricultural land often involves deforestation and the conversion of forests, grasslands, and other natural habitats. Deforestation releases CO2 stored in trees and disrupts ecosystems, leading to biodiversity loss. The conversion of forests to agricultural land also reduces the capacity of ecosystems to absorb greenhouse gases. Adopting sustainable land use practices, such as agroforestry, reforestation, and land restoration, can help mitigate deforestation and preserve biodiversity. Agriculture is a significant consumer of freshwater resources, accounting for a substantial portion of global water use. Irrigation practices, especially in water-stressed regions, can deplete water sources and lead to water scarcity. Furthermore, the excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides in agriculture can contaminate water bodies, affecting aquatic ecosystems and human health. Promoting water-efficient irrigation systems, precision agriculture techniques, and sustainable water management practices can help minimize the water footprint and pollution associated with agriculture. Unsustainable agriculture practices, such as intensive monoculture farming, overuse of chemical inputs, and improper soil management, can lead to soil degradation and erosion. Soil erosion not only reduces agricultural productivity, but also releases carbon stored in the soil into the atmosphere. Implementing soil conservation practices, such as crop rotation, cover cropping, and organic farming, can help improve soil health, retain moisture, and reduce erosion. Agriculture and livestock production can contribute to the loss of biodiversity and habitat fragmentation. The conversion of natural habitats into agricultural land reduces the available habitat for native species. Moreover, the use of pesticides and the introduction of non-native species can negatively impact biodiversity. Implementing sustainable agricultural practices that prioritize biodiversity conservation, such as agroecology and organic farming, can help preserve ecosystem services, protect wildlife habitats, and enhance biodiversity. Food waste and loss throughout the agricultural supply chain contribute to greenhouse gas emissions and resource inefficiency. Producing food that goes uneaten wastes the energy, water, and other resources invested in its production. Addressing food waste and loss through improved storage, transportation, distribution, and consumer behavior can reduce environmental impacts and enhance food security. Promoting sustainable farming practices is crucial for mitigating the environmental impact of agricultural and livestock production. This includes adopting agroecological approaches, organic farming methods, precision agricultural technologies, and integrated pest management practices. These approaches prioritize soil health, diversity conservation, water efficiency, and the reduction of synthetic inputs, ultimately fostering sustainable and resilient agricultural systems. By implementing sustainable agricultural practices, supporting small-scale farmers, and promoting responsible livestock management, we can foster a more resilient and environmentally friendly food production system. It's essential to strike a balance between meeting the growing global demand for food and protecting the planet's natural resources to ensure a sustainable future for generations to come. The accumulation of GHGs in the atmosphere enhances the natural greenhouse effect, causing global warming. When solar radiation reaches the Earth's surface, some of it is absorbed and re-emitted as heat. GHGs in the atmosphere trap a portion of this heat, preventing it from escaping into space. This process is essential for maintaining a habitable climate, but excessive GHG concentrations result in an intensified greenhouse effect, leading to an increase in global temperatures. The role of CO2 as the primary GHG of concern lies in its long atmospheric lifetime. CO2 remains in the atmosphere for hundreds of years, accumulating over time and contributing to the long-term global warming trend. Other GHGs, such as methane and nitrous oxide, have shorter lifetimes but possess higher warming potentials, meaning they can trap more heat per molecule than CO2. It's important to note that GHG emissions and their impact on climate change are not evenly distributed globally. Historically, developed countries have contributed the most cumulative emissions due to their industrial activities. However, emerging economies and developing countries are experiencing significant increases in emissions as their economies grow. Addressing the global challenge of climate change requires collective efforts and international cooperation. Efforts to mitigate climate change focus on reducing GHG emissions through various strategies. Transitioning to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, Implementing sustainable land use practices, promoting reforestation and afforestation, and adopting cleaner industrial processes are some of the key approaches. These actions aim to limit the concentration of GHGs in the atmosphere, thereby mitigating the impact of human activities on the climate system. Human activities, including fossil fuel combustion, deforestation, industrial processes, and agricultural practices, have led to the release of significant amounts of GHGs into the atmosphere. The accumulation of these GHGs amplifies the natural greenhouse effect, contributing to global warming. Understanding the link between human activities and GHG emissions is vital for developing effective mitigation strategies and transitioning to a more sustainable, low-carbon future. By reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, implementing sustainable land use practices, and adopting cleaner technologies, we can work towards mitigating the impact of human activities on the climate system and striving for a more environmentally resilient planet. Climate change is not only an environmental issue, but also a significant threat to human health and well-being. Now we'll explore the various ways in which climate change impacts human health and discuss the importance of prioritizing adaptation and mitigation strategies. Climate change is leading to a significant increase in the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, posing a range of risks to human lives, infrastructure, ecosystems, and economies. These events include heat waves, hurricanes, floods, droughts, wildfires, and storms. Understanding and addressing the impact of extreme weather events is crucial for building resilience and mitigating their adverse effects. Rising global temperatures are causing more frequent and intense heat waves. Heat waves have severe health consequences, particularly for vulnerable populations, leading to heat-related illnesses and even fatalities. They also put a strain on energy systems and infrastructure, leading to power outages and increased demand for cooling. Adapting to heat waves requires implementing heat mitigation strategies, such as developing cooling centers, improved urban design for better heat dissipation, and raising public awareness about heat-related risks. Climate change contributes to the intensification of hurricanes and storms, leading to increased wind speeds, storm surges, and rainfall. These events can result in devastating impacts, including widespread destruction of infrastructure, coastal flooding, and loss of life. Mitigation efforts involve improving early warning systems, implementing coastal defenses, and designing resilient infrastructure to withstand the impacts of extreme weather events. Rising sea levels, changing precipitation patterns, and increased rainfall intensity contribute to an elevated risk of flooding. Floods can cause extensive damage to homes, infrastructure, and agriculture, leading to displacement, economic loss, and ecological disruptions. Addressing the risks of floods involves implementing floodplain management strategies, enhancing stormwater management systems, and adopting nature-based solutions such as wetland restoration and floodplain preservation. Climate change exacerbates the occurrence and severity of droughts in many regions. Droughts have far-reaching consequences involving water scarcity, crop failure, insecurity, and the depletion of freshwater resources. Adapting to droughts requires promoting water conservation measures, improving water management practices, and implementing drought-resistant agricultural techniques. Additionally, investing in alternative water sources, such as desalination and rainwater harvesting, can help mitigate the impacts of prolonged droughts. I know, how can we talk about floods and droughts as part of climate change? It's because we have deserts and rainforests on the planet. Climate change creates favorable conditions for widespread wildfires by increasing temperatures, drying out vegetation, and extending fire seasons. Wildfires can result in significant ecological damage, loss of biodiversity, property destruction, and threats to human health. Effective wildfire management involves implementing fire prevention strategies, enhancing early detection and response systems, and promoting land management practices that reduce fuel loads and improve forest resilience. Addressing the increased risk from extreme weather events requires a multifaceted approach that combines mitigation, adaptation, and resilience-building efforts. This includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions to mitigate the impacts of climate change, implementing robust infrastructure and building codes to withstand extreme events, enhancing disaster preparedness and response mechanisms, and investing in research and technology for early warning systems and forecasting. By understanding the risks associated with extreme weather events and taking proactive measures to mitigate and adapt, we can enhance community resilience, protect lives and livelihoods, and ensure a sustainable and secure future in the face of a changing climate. Air pollution, especially from the combustion of fossil fuels and industrial processes, poses a significant risk to human health. The pollutants released into the air can have detrimental impacts on respiratory and cardiovascular systems, leading to various health issues. Understanding and addressing the health impacts of air pollution is crucial for protecting public health and promoting sustainable living. Exposure to air pollutants can lead to a range of respiratory problems, including irritation of the airways, coughing, wheezing, and exacerbation of asthma symptoms. Fine particulate matter and ground-level ozone are particularly harmful as they can penetrate deep into the lungs and cause inflammation. Prolonged exposure to air pollution can increase the risk for developing chronic respiratory conditions such as bronchitis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and lung cancer. Air pollution is also strongly linked to cardiovascular diseases, including heart attacks, strokes, and high blood pressure. The fine particles and toxic gases in the air can enter the bloodstream and cause inflammation, damage the blood vessels, and impair heart function. Long-term exposure to air pollution increases the risk of developing cardiovascular conditions and contributes to premature mortality. Children are particularly vulnerable to the health impacts of air pollution. Exposure to pollutants during critical stages of development can have long-lasting effects on lung function, cognitive development, and overall well-being. Children exposed to high levels of air pollution may experience reduced lung growth, increased respiratory infections, and higher risks of asthma development. It's essential to protect the air quality in schools and communities to safeguard children's health. Air pollution can worsen existing allergies and increase the susceptibility to respiratory infections. Pollutants irritate the respiratory system, making individuals more prone to allergic reactions and infections. Poor air quality also weakens the immune system, making it harder to fight off respiratory infections such as the flu or pneumonia. It's important to consider the long-term impacts of air pollution on vulnerable populations, including low-income communities and marginalized groups. These communities often face a disproportionate burden of exposure to air pollution due to the location of industrial facilities, highways, and other pollution sources. Environmental justice calls for equitable distribution of clean air and efforts to address the disparities in exposure and health outcomes among different socioeconomic groups. Addressing the health impacts of air pollution requires a multi-pronged approach. This includes reducing emissions from industrial sources, transitioning to clean and renewable energy sources, promoting sustainable transportation options, and implementing stringent air quality regulations. Additionally, individual actions such as reducing personal vehicle use, adopting energy-efficient practices, and supporting clean energy initiatives can contribute to improving air quality and protecting health. Furthermore, public awareness and education play a crucial role in empowering individuals and communities to make informed decisions regarding their health. It's important to raise awareness about the health risks of air pollution, promote lifestyle choices that reduce exposure, and advocate for policies and practices that prioritize clean air and public health. By prioritizing the reduction of air pollution and the promotion of clean air initiatives, we can improve public health outcomes, reduce healthcare costs, and create a healthier and more sustainable future for all. Climate change is impacting disease patterns around the world, creating new challenges for public health systems and communities. The changing climate influences the transmission dynamics of infectious diseases, alters the geographic distribution of vectors, and affects the prevalence of certain health conditions. Understanding and addressing these changing disease patterns are crucial for effective disease prevention and public health planning. Climate change influences the geographic range and activity of disease-carrying vectors, such as mosquitoes, ticks, and flies. Rising temperatures and altered precipitation patterns create more favorable conditions for these vectors, increasing the risk of diseases they transmit. For example, diseases like malaria, dengue fever, Zika virus, and Lyme disease are highly influenced by climate factors. Changes in the distribution and abundance of these vectors can lead to new areas being at risk and can affect the timing and intensity of disease outbreaks. Changes in precipitation patterns, including increased rainfall and flooding, can impact water quality and increase the risk of waterborne diseases. Heavy rain can overwhelm water treatment systems and contaminate water sources with pathogens, leading to outbreaks of diseases like cholera, typhoid fever, and gastrointestinal infections. Changes in water availability and quality can also affect sanitation practices, further exacerbating the spread of waterborne diseases. Climate change can worsen air quality, leading to an increase in respiratory illnesses. The rise in temperature and the change in weather patterns contribute to the formation of ground-level ozone and the release of pollutants such as particulate matter. These pollutants can trigger or exacerbate respiratory conditions such as asthma, chronic bronchitis, and respiratory allergies. Additionally, the increased frequency and severity of wildfires, often associated with climate change, release smoke and harmful pollutants into the air, further compromising respiratory health. Climate change influences food production, storage, and distribution systems, which can impact food safety and increase the risk of foodborne diseases. Higher temperatures can promote the growth of bacteria and other pathogens in food, leading to an increased risk of contamination. Changes in precipitation patterns can also affect crop yields and increase the likelihood of foodborne illnesses due to inadequate food handling and storage practices. Climate change can contribute to the emergence of new infectious diseases or the reemergence of existing ones. Environmental changes, including habitat disruption and changes in wildlife populations, can lead to increased interactions between humans and animals, increasing the risk of zoonotic diseases. Additionally, changing environmental conditions may influence the behavior and adaptability of pathogens, enabling their spread to new areas or causing changes in disease patterns. Addressing the changing disease patterns requires a comprehensive approach that combines surveillance systems, early warning mechanisms, public health education, and effective response strategies. It's crucial to strengthen disease surveillance systems to monitor and detect changes in disease patterns and develop strategies for rapid response. Enhancing public health infrastructure, including access to health care, clean water, and sanitation facilities, is essential for preventing and managing the spread of diseases. Furthermore, climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts can indirectly contribute to disease prevention by reducing the environmental factors that promote disease transmission. This includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions, promoting sustainable land use practices, and ensuring resilient health systems that can effectively respond to changing disease patterns. By understanding the complex relationship between climate change and disease patterns, we can take proactive measures to mitigate risks, protect public health, and build resilient communities. Collaboration between governments, health organizations, researchers, and communities is essential for addressing the health challenges posed by changing disease patterns in the face of a changing climate. Climate change poses significant challenges to global food security and nutrition. impacting agricultural productivity, food availability, and access to nutritious food. The changing climate patterns, including shifts in temperature, rainfall patterns, and extreme weather events, affect crop yields, livestock production, and fisheries. Ensuring food security and promoting nutrition in the face of climate change requires comprehensive strategies that address both adaptation and mitigation. Climate change alters the conditions necessary for crop growth, including temperature, water availability, and pest dynamics. Rising temperatures can reduce crop yields, particularly for the heat-sensitive crops like wheat, corn, and rice. Changes in precipitation patterns can result in droughts or floods, further impacting agricultural productivity. Additionally, increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, such as hurricanes and storms, can cause significant damage to crops and infrastructure, leading to food shortages and price volatility. The changing climate triggers shifts in suitable agricultural zones, impacting the geographic distribution of crops and affecting local and regional food production. As temperatures and growing seasons change, farmers may need to adapt their cultivation practices, shift to different crop varieties, or even change their agricultural practices altogether. Such shifts can disrupt traditional agricultural systems, affecting livelihoods and local food supplies. Climate change also affects livestock production and fisheries. Rising temperatures and changing precipitation patterns can impact animal health, feed availability, and water resources, leading to reduced livestock productivity. Changes in ocean temperature and acidity levels impact marine ecosystems, affecting the distribution and abundance of fish species, which has implications for fisheries and coastal communities dependent on seafood as a source of nutrition and livelihood. Climate change can have a direct impact on the nutritional quality and diversity of food. Changes in temperature and precipitation patterns can affect the composition of certain crops, including their nutrient content. Moreover, disruption in food production can result in limited access to diverse and nutritious food, leading to malnutrition, particularly in vulnerable populations. Climate change can also indirectly affect nutrition by influencing livelihoods and food affordability, further exacerbating food insecurity and inadequate dietary diversity. Adapting agricultural practices to changing climatic conditions is crucial to ensuring food security and resilience. This includes implementing climate-smart farming techniques such as conservation agriculture, agroforestry, crop diversification, and efficient water management. These practices enhance soil health, conserve water resources, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and improve the resilience of agricultural systems to climate-related challenges. Transitioning to more sustainable and resilient food systems is essential for mitigating climate change impacts and to ensure long-term food security. This involves promoting sustainable land and water management, supporting small-scale farmers in rural communities, investing in agricultural research and innovation, and reducing food loss and waste throughout the supply chain. Additionally, promoting diverse and nutritious diets, as well as supporting local and regional food production and distribution systems, can enhance food security, reduce environmental impacts, and improve nutrition outcomes. Addressing challenges to food security and nutrition in the face of climate change requires a multidimensional approach that involves collaboration among governments, farmers, researchers, and consumers. Investments in research, infrastructure, and technology are needed to develop climate-resilient agriculture and promote sustainable food systems. It's crucial to prioritize the needs of vulnerable communities, including small-scale farmers, women, and marginalized groups, to ensure equitable access to resources and opportunities. By integrating climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies into food and agriculture policies, we can work towards achieving sustainable food security, improving nutrition outcomes, and building resilient communities in the face of a changing climate. Climate change not only impacts physical health, but also has significant implications for mental health and well-being. The complex and interconnected challenges posed by climate change, such as extreme weather events, environmental degradation, and social disruptions, can have profound psychological effects on individuals, communities, and societies at large. Understanding and addressing the mental health dimension of climate change is crucial for promoting resilience and ensuring the overall well-being of individuals and communities. The increased frequency and intensity of climate-related disasters, such as hurricanes, floods, and wildfires, can cause significant trauma and psychological distress. These events can lead to the loss of homes, livelihoods, and even loved ones, resulting in grief, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. The long-term recovery process following climate disasters can further contribute to mental health challenges as individuals and communities grapple with the emotional and psychological toll of the events. The existential threat posed by climate change can lead to feelings of eco-anxiety, a state of distress and worry about the future of the planet. The awareness of environmental degradation, species extinction, and the potential consequences of climate change can evoke a sense of helplessness, fear, and despair. Similarly, climate grief refers to the emotional response triggered by the loss and degradation of natural environments and the sense of mourning for the future generations facing a compromised planet. Climate change-induced displacement and forced migration, driven by events such as sea level rise, droughts, and land degradation, can have profound impacts on mental health. Displaced individuals often face increased vulnerability, loss of community support systems, and exposure to adverse living conditions. The uncertainty and loss associated with displacement can lead to a range of mental health challenges, including depression, anxiety, and a sense of displacement-related identity crisis. Climate change exacerbates existing social inequities, and these disparities can have a direct impact on mental health outcomes. Marginalized communities, including low-income populations, racial and ethnic minorities, and indigenous peoples, often bear the brunt of climate change impacts while having limited access to resources and support systems. The resulting social injustices, such as unequal distribution of resources and unequal exposure to environmental hazards, can contribute to mental health disparities and exacerbate existing mental health conditions. Addressing the mental health impacts of climate change requires comprehensive strategies that focus on building resilience and promoting mental well-being. This includes integrating mental health considerations into climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts, providing psychosocial support services in climate-affected communities, and promoting community cohesion and social support networks. Investing in mental health resources, awareness campaigns, and capacity building for mental health professionals can also play a crucial role in mitigating the mental health effects of climate change. Educating individuals and communities about the psychological impacts of climate change can help foster awareness, understanding, and resilience. Promoting emotional intelligence, coping mechanisms, and psychological preparedness for climate-related events can empower individuals to navigate the challenges posed by climate change. Additionally, fostering a sense of agency and engagement in climate action can contribute to a sense of purpose and well-being, enabling individuals to contribute to positive change and mitigate feelings of helplessness. Recognizing and addressing the mental health dimensions of climate change is essential for promoting individual and community resilience, as well as fostering a compassionate and empathetic response to the challenges we face. By integrating mental health considerations in the climate change policies, promoting social equity, and investing in support systems, we can better address the emotional and psychological impacts of climate change. The increasing frequency and intensity of natural disasters, displacement, loss of livelihoods, and uncertainty about the future can lead to heightened stress, anxiety, and feelings of hopelessness. By recognizing and addressing these mental health dimensions, we can create supportive environments that promote well-being and empower individuals to cope with the emotional toll of climate change. Furthermore, by promoting social equity, we can ensure that vulnerable communities have access to mental health services and support networks, reducing the disproportionate burden they may face. Investing in mental health resources and integrating mental health considerations into climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies is not only a moral imperative, but also a crucial step towards building resilience and fostering a compassionate response to the challenges we collectively face. Climate change poses substantial risks to human health and well-being, affecting vulnerable populations and exacerbating existing health inequalities. Understanding the linkages between climate change and health is crucial for implementing effective adaptation and mitigation strategies. By prioritizing public health considerations, promoting sustainable practices, and investing in resilient healthcare systems, we can mitigate the adverse health impacts of climate change and create healthier and more resilient communities. Climate change exacerbates existing social inequalities and disproportionately affects marginalized communities. We'll delve deeper into the issue of displacement and inequality, shedding light on the social justice dimension of climate change. Climate change is not just an environmental issue. It has profound social implications as well. One of the significant consequences is the displacement and forced migration of communities. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and changing rainfall patterns are impacting vulnerable regions around the world. As a result, communities living in low-lying coastal areas, drought-prone regions, or areas susceptible to natural disasters are facing the harsh reality of displacement. These climate-induced displacements are forcing millions of people to leave their homes and seek refuge elsewhere. The loss of habitable land, scarcity of resources, and deteriorating living conditions make it increasingly difficult for affected communities to sustain their livelihoods. As they are forced to relocate, they face challenges such as limited access to basic services, inadequate housing, and reduced social support systems. Furthermore, climate change exacerbates the existing inequalities, making marginalized communities particularly vulnerable to displacement. It's crucial to recognize that these displacements are not isolated incidents, but part of a larger global issue. The scale of forced migration due to climate change poses significant social, economic, and political challenges that demand attention and action. Addressing the issue of displacement and forced migration requires a multifaceted approach. It involves developing comprehensive strategies that encompass climate adaptation, disaster preparedness, and humanitarian responses. Collaborative efforts between governments, international organizations, and local communities are necessary to ensure the protection, support, and sustainable resettlement of climate-displaced populations. By understanding and acknowledging the social dimensions of climate change, we can work towards fostering resilience, promoting social justice, and addressing the challenges faced by communities affected by displacement. It's imperative to integrate these considerations into our discussions and actions related to climate change to ensure a more equitable and sustainable future for all. Climate change is not only an environmental crisis, but also a matter of social justice. Vulnerable communities, often marginalized and disadvantaged, bear a disproportionate burden of the impacts of climate change. The consequences of climate change, such as extreme weather events, rising temperatures, and resource scarcity, further exacerbate existing social inequalities. Environmental justice highlights the intersectionality between environmental issues and social equity, emphasizing that no one should disproportionately bear the harmful consequences of environmental degradation. It underscores the need to address the disparities in access to resources, economic opportunities, and decision-making power that contribute to the vulnerability of certain communities. Vulnerable communities, including low-income neighborhoods, indigenous populations, and communities of color, often face environmental injustices such as exposure to pollution, inadequate access to clean water and air, and limited access to health care and educational resources. Climate change amplifies these injustices by intensifying the risks and exacerbating the existing socioeconomic disparities. Addressing environmental justice requires an inclusive and participatory approach that empowers marginalized communities and ensures their voices are heard in decision-making processes. It involves recognizing and rectifying the historical and systemic factors that have contributed to the unequal distribution of environmental benefits and burdens. Furthermore, the solution to climate change must prioritize the needs and rights of vulnerable communities. This includes providing equitable access to sustainable infrastructure, renewable energy, and green jobs, as well as supporting community-led initiatives and capacity-building efforts. By empowering vulnerable communities and promoting environmental justice, we can foster resilience, reduce inequalities, and build a more equitable and sustainable future for all. It's crucial to acknowledge and address the environmental injustices faced by vulnerable communities in our discussions, policies, and actions related to climate change. By doing so, we can work towards a more just and inclusive society, where all individuals, regardless of their socioeconomic status or background, can thrive in a sustainable and resilient environment. When addressing the challenges of climate change, it's essential to recognize the interconnectedness of social, economic, and environmental issues through the intersectional lens. Intersectionality highlights how various forms of discrimination and oppression intersect, creating unique experiences for individuals and communities. Climate justice calls for an inclusive and comprehensive approach that considers the diverse impacts of climate change on different groups, including women, people of color, indigenous communities, LGBTQ+ individuals, and those with disabilities. It recognizes that individuals within these communities may face multiple layers of vulnerability due to systemic inequalities. For instance, women in many regions of the world often bear the brunt of climate change impacts due to gendered roles, limited access to resources, and social norms. Indigenous communities, who often have deep connections to land, experience disproportionate impacts as their traditional territories face ecological disruptions. The LGBTQ community may face additional challenges related to discrimination and exclusion during climate-related disasters and displacement. Climate justice acknowledges that solutions to climate change must not perpetuate or exacerbate existing inequalities. It emphasizes the need for inclusive decision-making processes that empower marginalized groups, amplify their voices, and ensure their active participation in shaping climate policy and practices. By adopting an intersectional approach, we can understand and address the complex and interconnected dimensions of climate change. It enables us to develop strategies that consider the unique needs, experiences, and perspectives of different communities, fostering inclusivity and social equity. Promoting climate justice requires dismantling systemic barriers, addressing economic disparities, and promoting social and political transformation. It involves promoting equitable access to resources, investing in community-led initiatives, and centering the voices and experiences of marginalized groups in climate action. By embracing intersectionality and striving for climate justice, we can build a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable future that uplifts and empowers all individuals and communities, ensuring that no one is left behind in the face of climate change. As we confront the challenges posed by climate change, it's crucial to prioritize efforts that mitigate inequality and build resilience in our communities. Climate change impacts disproportionately affect marginalized and vulnerable populations, exacerbating social, economic, and environmental inequalities. To create a more equitable and resilient future, we must address these disparities head-on. Mitigating inequality involves recognizing and rectifying the systemic factors that contribute to vulnerability and inequitable access to resources. It requires investing in policies and initiatives that promote social equity, ensure equal access to opportunities, and support the most vulnerable members of society. This includes providing affordable housing, quality health care, education, and reliable infrastructure in areas at high risk of climate change impacts. Building resilience is equally important, as it enables communities to adapt and withstand impacts of climate change. Resilience encompasses a range of strategies, such as implementing climate-smart infrastructure, diversifying livelihoods, strengthening social support systems, and enhancing disaster preparedness. By empowering communities with the knowledge, resources, and capacity to adapt, we can enhance their resilience and reduce vulnerability. Furthermore, addressing inequality and building resilience requires collaboration and partnership at all levels. Governments, non-governmental organizations, communities, and individuals must work together to develop inclusive policies, mobilize resources, and implement sustainable practices. The active involvement of local communities, particularly those most affected by climate change, is crucial to ensure the solutions are tailored to their specific needs and circumstances. Equitable and resilient responses to climate change must also consider the voices and perspectives of indigenous peoples, traditional knowledge holders, and marginalized groups. Their insights and wisdom, derived from centuries of living in harmony with nature, can provide valuable guidance in our quest for sustainability and resilience. By mitigating inequality and building resilience, we can create a future that is more just, sustainable, and capable of withstanding the challenges of climate change. It requires a collective commitment to address the root causes of inequality and prioritize the well-being of all individuals and communities, particularly those who are most vulnerable. Together, we can forge a path towards a more equitable and resilient world, ensuring a sustainable future for generations to come. Social justice is an essential aspect of addressing climate change. By understanding the impacts of displacement and inequality, we can advocate for inclusive and equitable climate action. Recognizing the agency of affected communities, promoting environmental justice, and prioritizing resilience-building measures can contribute to a more just and sustainable future for all. The COVID-19 pandemic and associated global lockdowns had noticeable effects on both air quality and certain aspects of ocean health. While these improvements were temporary and localized, they offer valuable insights into the potential for positive change when human activity is curtailed. The temporary improvements in environmental conditions during periods of reduced human activity do highlight the potential for positive change if we are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and addressing global warming on a long-term basis. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated that rapid and significant changes in human behavior can lead to noticeable reductions in emissions and improvements in air quality. This indicates that collective actions and policy measures can indeed make a difference in mitigating the impacts of climate change. If we were to take concerted and sustained action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, transition to renewable energy sources, implement energy-efficient technologies, promote sustainable practices, and adopt climate-friendly policies, we could make a substantial impact on global warming. The key lies in recognizing the urgency of the climate crisis and mobilizing individuals, communities, businesses, and governments to prioritize and implement effective measures. This requires collaboration, innovation, and the commitment to making long-term changes in how we produce and consume energy, manage resources, and conduct our daily lives. By scaling up renewable energy infrastructure, improving energy efficiency, protecting and restoring ecosystems, and adopting sustainable transportation and agricultural practices, we can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and work towards a more sustainable future. However, it's important to note that addressing climate change is a complex and multifaceted challenge that requires global cooperation, innovative technologies, and systemic changes across various sectors. It will require sustained effort, long-term planning, and commitment from individuals, governments, and businesses worldwide. While the temporary improvements during periods of reduced human activity offer a glimpse of what is possible, it's crucial that we channel this momentum into sustained action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and combat global warming. By taking climate change seriously and implementing comprehensive measures, we can make a significant and lasting impact on the trajectory of our planet's climate. During the lockdowns, the reduction in industrial activity, transportation, and other emission sources led to improvements in air quality in many regions. With fewer pollutants being released into the atmosphere, there was a visible reduction in air pollution levels. Clearer skies, reduced smog, and improved respiratory conditions were observed in some areas. However, it's important to note that these improvements were short-term and specific to the duration of the lockdowns. While the COVID-19 global lockdowns did lead to temporary improvements in some aspects of the ocean, such as reduced pollution and clearer waters in certain areas, it's important to understand the broader context of ocean health and the long-term impacts of climate change. The temporary reduction in human activities, including industrial and shipping activities, during the pandemic did lead to a decrease in certain sources of pollution entering the oceans, such as plastic waste and chemical runoff. This in turn may have had localized positive effects on water quality and marine ecosystems in some regions, such as the Gulf Coast of Florida. However, it's essential to recognize that climate change and its effects on the oceans are multifaceted and extend far beyond temporary reductions in human activity. Rising sea temperatures, ocean acidification, coral bleaching, and loss of marine biodiversity are among the significant challenges directly linked to climate change. Global warming, primarily driven by greenhouse gas emissions, is causing the oceans to warm and become more acidic. These changes have far-reaching consequences for marine ecosystems, including the bleaching and death of coral reefs, disruption of marine food chains, and the migration of species to different habitats. To address the broader issues facing oceans, sustained efforts are needed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, mitigate climate change impacts, and implement measures to protect marine ecosystems. This includes reducing carbon emissions, protecting coastal habitats, regulating fishing practices, combating plastic pollution, and establishing marine protected areas. While the temporary improvements observed during the lockdown period provide a glimpse of the potential for positive change, addressing the long-term health and resilience of oceans requires comprehensive and ongoing action. It's essential to view these improvements within the larger context of climate change and the multitude of challenges facing marine ecosystems. While the reduction in certain sources of pollution during the COVID-19 pandemic may have had temporary localized benefit for the oceans, the broader issues relating to climate change and ocean health require sustained and focused effort to mitigate the impacts and promote long-term sustainability. Similarly, the temporary reduction in human activities had some positive effects on the ocean. With decreased shipping and industrial operations, pollution sources like plastic waste and chemical runoff were reduced. As a result, there were localized improvements in water quality and marine ecosystems. Some areas experienced clearer waters and reduced pollution-related stress on marine life. However, the long-term health of oceans still depends on comprehensive measures to address climate change, overfishing, habitat destruction, and other ongoing challenges. It's crucial to acknowledge that while these temporary improvements are encouraging, they should not overshadow the larger context of climate change and its long-term impacts on both air and ocean health. Sustained and systemic actions are required to address the root causes of environmental degradation and ensure a sustainable future. By recognizing the potential for change demonstrated during the pandemic, we can strive for long-term solutions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote renewable energy sources, protect ecosystems, and adapt sustainable practices in order to create a healthier planet for future generations. By recognizing the reality of climate change and its potential consequences, nations around the world have taken steps to address the challenges posed by this global issue. This segment explores the international efforts and strategies aimed at mitigating and adapting to climate change. In 2015, nearly all countries adopted the Paris Agreement, a landmark international treaty within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. There's a really long acronym that would make no sense if it was said out loud. The agreement aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It sets out national targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and encourages countries to strengthen resilience and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Under the Paris Agreement, each participating country is required to submit its Nationally Determined Contributions, or NDCs. These are voluntary pledges outlining the country's specific actions and targets for reducing emissions and adapting to climate change. NDCs serve as a crucial framework for collective global action, facilitating transparency and tracking progression towards a climate change. But it requires good faith on the part of all parties, including corporations. A key component of addressing climate change is transitioning to renewable energy sources. Many countries are investing in renewable energy technologies, such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal power. Promoting renewable energy not only reduces greenhouse gas emissions, but also contributes to energy security, economic growth, and job creation. Implementing carbon pricing mechanisms, such as carbon taxes or emission trading systems, provides economic incentives to reduce GHG emissions. By assigning a monetary value to carbon pollution, these mechanisms encourage industries and individuals to adopt cleaner technologies and practices. Adapting to the impacts of climate change is crucial, as some degree of climate change is already unavoidable. Efforts to enhance resilience involve implementing strategies to protect vulnerable communities, infrastructure, and ecosystems from climate-related risks. This involves improving water management systems, strengthening coastal defenses, promoting sustainable agriculture, and incorporating climate considerations into urban planning. Collaboration among nations is essential for addressing climate change effectively. International organizations, such as the Green Climate Fund, provide financial support to developing countries for climate change adaptation and mitigation projects. Additionally, partnerships between governments, businesses, and civil society play a vital role in mobilizing resources and sharing knowledge and best practices. Raising public awareness about climate change and its consequences is crucial for encouraging individual and collective action. Education and outreach initiatives aim to inform the public about the science of climate change, its impacts, and the steps individuals can take to reduce their carbon footprint. It's important to acknowledge that addressing climate change is a complex and ongoing process. While international efforts and strategies are crucial, collective action at all levels, individuals, communities, businesses, and governments, is necessary to achieve meaningful results. By working together to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, adapt to changing climatic conditions, and foster sustainable practices, we can mitigate the impacts of climate change and create a more resilient and environmentally sustainable future for generations to come. International efforts to address climate change include the Paris Agreement, nationally determined contributions, transitioning to renewable energy sources, implementing carbon pricing, enhanced adaptation and resilience measures, fostering international collaboration, and promoting public awareness and education. These collective actions demonstrate a global commitment to tackling climate change and building a sustainable future. While the overwhelming scientific consensus supports the existence of climate change and its human-caused nature, it's important to address skepticism and debunk common misconceptions. This segment explores some of the common arguments raised by skeptics and provides evidence-based responses. Skeptics often argue that climate change is simply a result of natural climate variability, pointing to historical climate shifts such as the medieval warm period or the Little Ice Age. While natural climate variability exists, extensive research shows that the current warming trend cannot be explained by natural factors alone. The rapid and unprecedented increase in greenhouse gas concentrations aligns with human activities and provides a more plausible explanation for observed warming. Skeptics may question the reliability of climate models, suggesting that their predictions are inaccurate or uncertain. While models are not infallible, they are based on robust scientific understanding and are continually refined and validated against observational data. Multiple models from different research institutions consistently predict similar trends, providing confidence in their projections. It's important to note that models are not intended to provide precise predictions, but rather offer scenarios based on different assumptions and inputs. Skeptics often reference the ClimateGate controversy, which involved the unauthorized release of emails from climate scientists. Skeptics argue that these emails reveal a scientific conspiracy or manipulation of data. However, multiple investigations have concluded that the emails do not undermine the scientific consensus on climate change. The controversy represents a small fraction of climate research and does not invalidate the extensive body of evidence supporting anthropogenic climate change. Skeptics may claim that scientists were predicting global cooling in the past, leading to doubts about current global warming trends. While some media reports in the 70s did discuss the possibility of cooling due to aerosol pollution, the scientific consensus, even at the time, pointed towards warming. The current consensus reflects the advances in scientific understanding since then and supported by a wealth of data and research. Skeptics sometimes argue that climate change is a natural cycle that has occurred throughout the Earth's history. While the climate has indeed experienced natural cycles in the past, the current warming trend is occurring at an unprecedented rate and is primarily driven by human activities. The magnitude and rapidity of current changes distinguish it from natural cycles observed on the geological record. Skeptics may raise concerns about the economic impact of climate change mitigation methods, suggesting that the costs outweigh the benefits. However, numerous studies indicate that the economic consequences of inaction and the impacts of unchecked climate change are far more detrimental. Transitioning to a low-carbon economy can spur innovation, create new job opportunities, and lead to long-term economic and social benefits. Addressing skepticism and misconception is crucial for fostering informed dialogue and promoting evidence-based decision-making. By providing accurate information and highlighting the consensus within the scientific community, we can bridge the gaps in understanding and work towards a collective response to the challenges of climate change. Addressing skepticism involves addressing arguments such as natural climate variability, climate model limitations, the ClimateGate controversy, the global cooling myth, climate change as a natural cycle, and the economic impact concerns. By examining the scientific evidence, acknowledging the consensus among experts, and promoting accurate information, we can foster a better understanding of climate change and the need for decisive action. In the discourse surrounding climate change, misinformation and climate denial can hinder progress and create confusion among the public. This segment focuses on the importance of addressing misinformation and promoting accurate information about climate change. The overwhelming majority of climate scientists agree that climate change is primarily caused by human activities. Multiple scientific organizations and institutions worldwide have endorsed this consensus. It is crucial to emphasize the consensus, to counter misinformation and establish the credibility of climate science. Addressing misinformation involves debunking common climate myths perpetuated by climate skeptics. Examples of such myths include claims that global warming has stopped or that natural factors alone are responsible for climate change. Scientific evidence and data can be used to debunk these myths and provide a clear understanding of the realities of climate change. While there may be uncertainties in specific aspects of climate science, such as the exact timing and magnitude of future impacts, it's important to communicate these uncertainties accurately. Misrepresentation of scientific uncertainty can be exploited to sow doubt about the existence or severity of climate change. Proper communication of uncertainties helps maintain public trust and promotes informed decision-making. Fact-checking organizations play a crucial role in verifying information related to climate change. Media outlets and journalists have a responsibility to report accurate and reliable information, Fox News, ensuring that climate-related stories are based on sound scientific evidence. Promoting responsible journalism can help combat the spread of misinformation. Engaging in open and respectful dialogue with climate skeptics and those misinformed about climate change can be valuable. Providing accessible information, sharing scientific evidence, and addressing concerns can help dispel misconceptions and foster a better understanding of the issue. It's important to approach these discussions with patience, empathy, and a focus on building common ground. Strengthening climate education is vital for addressing misinformation. Integrating climate science into school curricula and promoting scientific literacy can equip individuals with the knowledge and critical thinking skills needed to discern accurate information from misinformation. Climate education programs can also empower people to become climate advocates and promote accurate information in their communities. Climate change is a multifaceted issue that intersects with various sectors, including science, policy, economics, and social justice. By bridging these divides and fostering interdisciplinary collaboration, we can develop comprehensive solutions and address misinformation more effectively. This includes involving diverse stakeholders, including scientists, policymakers, educators, community leaders, and individuals in the conversation. Addressing misinformation is crucial to creating an informed society that can take meaningful action on climate change. By promoting accurate information, debunking myths, fostering dialogue, and strengthening education, we can counteract misinformation and foster a greater understanding of the scientific consensus on climate change. This empowers individuals and communities to make informed decisions and actively contribute to the climate solution. As we conclude our exploration of climate change's impacts and misconceptions, I hope this video has provided you with valuable insights and a clearer understanding of the pressing global issue. By examining the scientific consensus, observational evidence, and the link between human activities and greenhouse gases, we have shed light on the realities of climate change. Remember, the effects extend beyond the environment to include human health, social justice, and the well-being of future generations, which I'll address in the second half of this series. Armed with this knowledge, I encourage you to continue seeking solutions and engaging in informed discussions about climate change. Together, we can build a more sustainable and resilient future. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this video informative and thought-provoking. This is the point which others tell you, if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more content just like this. But we all know that kind of thing is for losers. Don't be a loser. And as always, I welcome your feedback and ideas for future videos in the comment section below. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing your inner nude, dude. See you in part 2.